and just read her statement at that point.
All right. Call to order. Chair is here. Vice Chair Lardy.
Present.
Secretary Garrett. Board Member Clampett.
Present.
Board Member Gong.
Present.
Board Member Meyer.
Present.
Board Member Morgan.
Present.
Board Member Williams is absent. So we're on to item 2, which is land acknowledgement. The Resiliency Advisory Board acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Kumeyaay, Luiseño, Clipeño, and Kahula. Today, the Kumeyaay people continue to maintain their political sovereignty and cultural traditions as vital members of the San Diego community. We are honored to share this space with them, and we thank them for their stewardship. Item 3 is adoption or modification of agenda order. Does anyone have any modifications? Okay, take a vote to approve the agenda as is. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Morgan?
Second.
All right.
We have Jamie now. Jamie, if you want to read out the statement, we can count this.
Sure. Can you hear me? Sorry
Yes.
about that, everybody. I'm attending the Resiliency Advisory Board meeting today remotely due to emergency circumstances related to childcare that prevent me from attending in person. The chair of the Resiliency Advisory Board approved this request on November 17th. Pursuant to the Brown Act, I'm disclosing that there are no individuals 18 years of age or older present in the room with me. I will update this disclosure if it changes during the course of the meeting.
Thank you, Jamie. So I believe we have motion from Board Member Morgan, second from Board Member Meyer, unless I switch those off. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Item 4, board member and staff announcements and comments. First of all, do we have any announcements from staff?
Yes, I have a few. So for updates on climate action and climate resilience implementation, we have the 2024 Climate Action Plan Annual Report has now been posted online. And for Climate Resilient SD, the Climate Resilient SD Implementation Tracker has been updated. So those are both showing the most recent implementation updates that we have for both of those planning efforts. And then separately for the Inclusive Public Engagement Guide, a small update on that. The guide was presented to Rules Committee yesterday as an informational item. I can share the link to that recording and have it for the minutes. A PDF version of the guide will be made available for download. And then the next steps are to support some staff trainings for the guide in 2026 and to have some public workshops related to the guide as well. And that's all for me.
Are there any updates on the appointment for District 8?
I believe it should be going forward either in December or January, but I do not have a confirmed council date yet for that.
That's wonderful. Thank you for the update. All right, any comments or announcements from the board? We're getting to the holiday season. All right. So approval for the minutes, I would like to make a minor edit to item 8B, which is just to change environmental committee to environment committee. I understand because I think that my Microsoft Word keeps on wanting to change it to environmental. Does anyone have any proposed modifications? We get a motion,
Move approval with that modification.
right? Any second?
Seconded.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, passes. All right, do we have, item 6 is non-agenda public comment. Julie, could you read the explainer?
Yes, I will skip in person because it does not look like we
Okay.
have any in-person
Nope.
attendees. For virtual, you can raise your hand either by tapping the raise your hand button on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be taken in order in which you raise your hand. When the chair indicates it is your turn to speak, click the unmute prompt that will appear on your computer or dial *6 on your phone. Do we have any non-agenda public comment?
I see none.
I see none as well.
All right. And just a note for those who may be watching later on City TV or currently, we certainly welcome participation through public comment. Item 7, unfinished business, which is discussion of grid resilience presentation from Dr. Lorenzo Christoph. Erica, did you want to comment on that first?
Yeah, I want to thank you all for your attention and patience. And I had a question in my mind about whether his presentation rose a little bit above a technical level, that he used a lot of jargon. And I had tried to weed some of that out. And I hope that people were able to really grok what was going on there. So by way of debrief, I'd like to introduce the debrief by asking 2 questions. One is, what jumped out at people from that presentation? What did you get from it? And then secondly, is there anything we as a board want to pursue from that conversation? Learn more about, carry forward as action, put on the agenda for another time. So 2 questions. What jumped out at you from that presentation? And what, if anything, should we do next?
I mean, I'll start. I mean, I do think that it reaffirmed my understanding that electricity is just a very complicated and very regulated topic by a number of different agencies. I don't think I have any specific questions of him. I mean, I think I basically understood his thoughts. I probably would be interested in the city of San Diego, and I don't know who exactly is working on these issues, but specifically what their perspective is. I only know what I read in the paper, and I know CPUC has a strong role. I think there's even an article this week about profit rates for infrastructure projects for the local utility. But what sort of is the latest on the franchise agreement? I believe it's been extended. If there's any updates on anything else power related, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily planning, but I could be wrong.
Anything to add to that?
What stood out to me was, yeah, that it's very complicated. That there's a reason why I haven't gotten more involved. But I guess from everything that I have heard and the little bit that I know about the relationship between the grid and energy production, energy storage, and the natural environment, our resilient habitats, it is very. I have a strong desire to see more distributed, more energy production and storage, more rooftop solar, those kinds of projects. And I appreciated a little bit of information that he gave on those kinds of projects. And I think very much his support for the value from a resiliency perspective from distributed energy systems. I think he also got a little bit into all of the headwinds that are against making that being very easy, or that being very supported by the man, for lack of a better term. So I'm really interested to know if there are any ways, or what I don't really understand the ways at which a group like ours, a board like ours, can help incentivize and see and support more rooftop solar, more distributed solar production. But I know that it has a lot of environmental benefits compared to the other ways that we create energy. So I would love to learn more on my own for sure, but also from other people in the group about whether and how we can do that.
I'll mention that it would be helpful for me to break down what the obstacles or roadblocks are from the, not federal, but state and local categories in terms of what we could recommend. If there's an opportunity to recommend how to improve any processes that need improving on the city side, and then make suggestions for sending that to our lobbyist in Sacramento if there are some major ones that on the state level we can't address on the local level.
Another add-on.
Yeah.
I think listening to the comments, I think the other thing to think about is it feels like a lot of this is resiliency related, and I think there's definitely clear nexuses with this group. I think there's probably other things that are sort of outside of our pay grade, which are severe policy decisions for the city of San Diego and ultimately the elected officials. So I think there's probably some overlap there, but that's just probably something to keep in mind.
Either of you? Jamie, you got any thoughts?
No, I appreciated his perspective. As you know, Erica, I come also from that space, so I felt like he was right on, and I appreciated him kind of introducing us to the broader topic that I know we'll be diving into on different levels, moving into 2026. So I echo what everyone else said. I thought he really gave us the full picture, the benefits and the headwinds.
Okay.
I'll just close out by saying if there are specific topics or presentations that you would like to hear regarding the city's energy work, I can certainly coordinate those for next year's meetings.
Okay, and I would just say, for me, one of the reasons I wanted to invite him and what I've gotten out of those presentations is the technical perspective that it is possible to run the distribution grid locally. Because that's certainly not the way we think about it. And then the second big thing is, from the customer's point of view, someone who's got to put a system up, whether it's on your home or your business, some of the larger systems that I think many of us would like to see more of, how much easier it is when we can run the distribution locally, how much easier it is from the customer's point of view to make that happen when there's local control over it. So I think, I know we're going to have a discussion about the 2026 work plan and where it's going to go. And how much we want to focus on any of these topics in the coming year. I hope we'll come out of that conversation.
Yes.
And since I wasn't able to join the last meeting, what does that mean exactly, running the distribution system locally? Is that like breaking off of CalISO and doing our own thing here? Is that municipalization? What does that mean?
It can mean a lot of different things, including municipalization, where the city takes over absolute operation of the grid, but there's some variations on that. So not taking over the distribution system, the transmission system, there's a break point there.
Mhm.
So it tends to mean things we can do within the city's purview. And I'm not an expert in this at all. But the notion that we can do more than the CCA is doing, which is, basically buying electrons for us, passing them on. We can also run the wires that the city controls. That is to say, it is possible to separate that from the investor-owned utility and run it as a separate entity. And there are lots of pieces of experience across the state or across the country, for that matter, where that's been done successfully. But from Lorenzo's point of view, he was really talking about what are the planning implications of doing that? How do you think differently about your neighborhoods and your, land use planning, as well as the electrical system side of it? So I hope that was partial answer to your question.
No, that's helpful. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was going into like a switchboard operator.
Not that level of detail.
Okay, yeah, if we could do that legally. So yeah, no, that's helpful.
Any other comments? I think that you primed us for our discussion on the work plan for your book. All right, so we'll move on to information items. Item 8A, which is a presentation on the city's municipal energy program. So hey, there's a good segue there with Lindsay Haas, Program Manager with General Services. Lindsay, are you about ready to go?
I sure am. Hello,
Lindsay,
everybody.
do you want to share your screen or do you want me to run the slides for you?
I can share.
Okay. I will hand that over to you.
I sent the request, so I think Hector has to accept it.
I got it.
There we go. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, can you all see that PowerPoint?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, excellent. So hello, everyone. I'm Lindsay Hawes. I am the Municipal Energy Program Manager working in the Energy Division at the Department of General Services, formerly Sustainability and Mobility, and we've somewhat recently moved over to DGS. I'm going to give a quick update on some of the things we've been up to related to clean energy projects in the municipal space, and then also talk about our hazard mitigation grant program, which is focused on energy resilience. So as a sort of high level framing, the work that we are doing is tied directly to the goals that were established in our municipal energy strategy, as well as our climate action plan. So on the left, you see the strategies and actions that were adopted, I think, in 2022, actually 2020, for our municipal energy strategy, addressing, energy reduction, deployment of on-site renewables, zero emissions within our building sector, of course, resilience and grid stability, and then education and engagement. And then the municipal energy strategy was the document that initially set the goal of zero emissions municipal facilities by 2035. And that goal was eventually adopted into the climate action plan, which you see on the right here, specifically measure 1.3, where we, again, reinforced that goal to achieve decarbonization at city facilities by 2035, and then also measure 22.2, where we address fleet electrification. So both of those sort of focus areas are under my purview, essentially, at the Energy Division. In terms of scale, we've got about 400 facilities that are burning natural gas. We've got well over 4,000 fleet vehicles on the road, but around 4,000 is what we need to electrify to hit our cap goal. And we've got about 10 years to get that done. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We know that some of these electrification projects are going to be a slam dunk. Others are going to be a little bit more challenging. For some of our facilities and systems, there are no electric solutions available in the market, at least not cost effective at this time. And we have accounted for that to some degree by way of exemptions and the opportunity for exceptions in our Council Policy 900-03, the Zero Emissions Municipal Buildings and Operations Policy, otherwise known as ZEMBOP. ZEMBOP was adopted in October of 22, I want to say. It requires, and it was updated last winter, it requires all new municipal construction to be all electric. It provides specifications for retrofits to our 400 existing buildings. It calls for fossil fuel elimination plans, as well as fleet electrification plans for all of our asset managing departments. And those are actually documents that our team created and vetted with our departments and delivered. At least the fossil fuel elimination plans, the initial release was last winter, and we're updating those annually. And then the fleet electrification plans are in development right now. Regarding the 400 retrofits, most of those are going to fall into 3 categories, which are at the bottom of the screen here. Our Department of General Services facilities team is going to be installing efficient electric technologies as they maintain and replace aging systems that, reach the end of their useful life. Some retrofits are also going to be performed as part of capital improvement projects by our Engineering and Capital Projects Division. And then our team over at the Energy Division is pursuing energy savings performance contracts, which we're hoping will address a large percentage of the work ahead, or at least carve off a good chunk. And I do have an update on the first energy savings performance portfolio that we have been working on for the last many years. Just in case you're not familiar with how an energy savings performance contract or an ESPC works, this is a well-tested approach. It's been used by federal government for many, many years, many local governments as well, schools, large entities that are just like us, that have aging infrastructure, but limited funding to cover the cost of bringing those things up to speed. It is a contract that we would execute with an ESCO, an energy services company. They're a full service design build type of organization, and they would come in and assess, or they, in our case, they have come in and assess energy opportunities at a large portfolio of facilities. They present energy retrofit opportunities alongside the projected energy savings or avoided energy costs that we would experience as a result of those retrofits. And they also help bring financing to the table to help cover the cost of those projects. The energy savings are guaranteed as part of this project, and those savings are typically used to pay back the financing. And if the project were to fall short on the energy savings, the ESCO is on the hook to make up the difference, reimburse the city, and keep the systems functioning so that those savings are maintained. Back in 2021, we actually amended our municipal code so that we could leverage a state code that was designed to allow local governments like us to pursue these types of contracts without having to bid out every single project, or without having to ask multiple entities to come out and do the investment grade audit, which you do have to pay for, right? So it allows us to pursue these projects where the avoided energy costs essentially pay for the financing, as with a public hearing and with, of course, council approval. But again, without that upfront administratively heavy competition. So we have been pursuing a contract like this since fiscal year 21. So 5 years ago now. That was when we adopted the municipal code. We released our municipal energy implementation plan. We adopted our zero emissions policy. So we kind of established a groundwork that, and a sort of a foundation upon which all of these retrofits would occur, so that we make sure that the retrofits are driving home the goals that we've set in our climate action plan and our municipal energy strategy. In fiscal year 24, in step 4 here, we did go out to the market with a competitive request for qualifications and established a short list of ESCOs. In step 5, in fiscal year 24, we selected Willdan from the short list as our first partner ESCO. And then they came out and performed preliminary assessments, followed by investment grade audits. And then just this last September, a couple of months ago now, they proposed to us a final scope of work with financing. We're at step 8. We are in the process of finalizing the scope, negotiating the financing with lenders that we have identified to support this work. And we hope to be able to bring this contract to council in January for their approval. The opportunity that is presented with this contract includes retrofits to 40,000 streetlights, LED retrofits, HVAC, lighting, water heater, water fixtures, transformers. If it touches energy in our facilities, we're probably replacing it somewhere, as well as water. We are looking at water conservation measures and the water savings there as well. We would be electrifying 23 buildings. We would be deploying 17 discrete solar PV and battery storage systems for a total of 1.7 megawatts of PV and 5 megawatts of battery storage. And we're looking at all of these measures across 16 libraries, 16 recreation centers, 4 pools, 5 sports fields, 2 police stations, as well as one of our operations yards and one of our larger administrative buildings, Ridgehaven Green Building. So we're really excited for the opportunity to move this forward and really take a big chunk out of the electrification and efficiency goals. And the best part is that the financing that we have identified allows us to do this with no upfront cost to the city, and the ability to use those avoided costs, the energy reductions and the avoided energy costs, to pay back that financing, offset financing costs completely. So really excited for this to be moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and shift gears now and talk about the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. This, again, resilience focused, so excited to bring this information to you guys today. We applied for funding from the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program in partnership with SDG&E, and again, the HMGP program is run by FEMA, and we were awarded $580,000. That money gets routed through Cal OES, and to my knowledge is in Cal OES's bank, so it is not subject to some of the callbacks that we've seen from the federal level. So fingers crossed, but so far that's good news that we are hearing there. Technically speaking, this is called an advance assistance grant under the and the title of the grant is Community Lifeline Energy Resilience. Essentially, we are going to be using this funding to do a couple of key things. First off, work internally with internal city stakeholder departments like the Office of Emergency Services, Police and Fire Rescue, Parks and Rec, Library, sort of like the departments that manage the assets that could provide resilience services to the communities, as well as the departments that would play a role in maintaining those resilience benefits or delivering them during an emergency. Work with those internal departments to establish a framework for community energy resilience hubs. Basically say, what are the resilience benefits that we can offer to the community during an outage or during a disaster, and which are the appropriate facilities where those types of benefits would be best delivered. We would then and also figure out like what are the resilience benefits? How long would we want to back up our facilities? What types of services would we be providing in those facilities, and what type of backup power or other amenities would be required to meet those delivery goals? We would then develop a selection criteria and do some grid planning studies with the help of SDG&E, perform some site assessments to, again, figure out what are our options in terms of the facilities in our portfolio that would be best suited for this type of benefit. And then go out to the community and say, okay, look, this is what we're hoping to be able to provide as an organization, as an agency. Does this meet your expectations in terms of what you would expect from as a resilience benefit? These are sort of the subset of facilities where we think we could deliver this. Help us evaluate these sites and identify the best one to serve as a demonstration site, essentially. So again, we would be evaluating those potential sites for vulnerabilities, technical viability, assessing grid constraints, an analysis here. We are hiring a consultant to help us do all of this. We're bringing in some experts to help facilitate all of this work, so that's good news. That consultant, after we perform that internal assessment, create the framework, go out to the community to gather their feedback, and land collectively on a demonstration site. They would then produce 60% engineering drawings, cost estimates, perform a cost-benefit analysis, and then prepare a follow-on application to the HMGP, to FEMA, so that we can ideally bring in funds to construct this community lifeline energy resilience hub. And again, ideally, at the end of the day, if we're able to construct this, we have improved community access to electricity, heating, cooling in times of grid-sourced power loss. And ideally, this site would be located in a disadvantaged community. That is where I'm hoping that we land. So in terms of timeline, we think we will have the consultant identified and have a task order issued to them so that they can start work in February. And then we have essentially 1 year to get all of this work done. So it's going to be a bit of a scramble. They'll be assembling technical studies, preparing an engagement plan, performing that internal engagement with, again, the departments that would be stakeholders in the delivery of these services. We would then go out to community engagement, finalize our site selection, and hopefully in September. We also want to be able to solicit community feedback on what other resilience services are they looking for, right? Like the goal for this demonstration project explicit to the grant is to deliver a renewably powered microgrid, PV, battery storage, and microgrid controls that would allow this site to island during an outage for whatever duration we deem appropriate as part of this internal discussion and external discussion. But we know that there are other resilience features that would benefit the community, and we would love to be able to design those into this project as well, whether we're talking about shade. I, you know, I think you guys know I don't have to walk through that list. So yeah, after the 60% design is developed and the grant application is developed, we would have that ready for whenever this program opens up again. I'm not sure what the status of HMGP is at this point, given some of the activities at the federal level. But ultimately, we need to wrap up in February of 27. So that is it for me. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks again for your time today.
Thank you, Lindsay. We do have one question was sent to us by a member of the public earlier. She had a question regarding the ZMBOT policy, specifically regarding exceptions, which she mentioned earlier. And she was curious when the annual monitoring report would be brought to City Council, which would include that information.
Yes, we are currently collecting the information that is required for that exception report and would and plan to deliver the report to council by the end of the fiscal year.
So that would be July. Yes, okay.
By the end of June.
All right. Thank you very much.
I have one question.
Oh, go ahead.
We'll open up for public comment first, and then we'll go to the board. If
Yes, do we have any public comment?
hands raised or by phone is *6. I saw an iPhone that joined briefly.
Thank
Don't know
you.
if they're still here. Okay, I think you're good. Go ahead.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay, for this presentation. It's great to hear about the municipal energy strategy and particularly the energy savings contract. I'm particularly interested when the scope is complete and you're, really beginning to move ahead on all of this work. Do you have an estimate of the impact from this, the ultimate, the overarching contract and the work underneath it? An estimated impact on the city's greenhouse gas targets?
I do. Let me find that for you. Hold on one second. I have the number. You're talking about from the energy savings performance contract, right?
That's correct. Yeah, because that seems like a huge effort. A lot of work is undoubtedly planned under that contract. And therefore,
Yes.
one might imagine a big chunk out of that target.
Yep, you are correct about that. I'm trying to pull up my staff report because that is where that number is included. Give me one sec. My computer does not seem to be responding.
In the meantime, do we have any other questions or comments for Rebecca?
Yeah, I don't know, should I ask my question now while Lindsay's like other stuff up or?
If you're still waiting for Lo, could take another question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump back to this one as soon as I have that number in front of me.
Great.
Thanks.
My question is about the ESPC. You listed a few facilities for retrofitting. I was wondering if you've already selected those sites, like what went into the process of selecting those sites.
Yeah, absolutely. So going all the way back to a couple of years ago when we initiated this, couple of different things, couple of different sort of metrics that we assessed to create the initial list that was reviewed by Wildan as part of the preliminary assessments. We tried to identify sites that were in need of new energy systems, so had old aging systems that needed to be replaced where we knew efficiency was going to result in some energy cost savings for us. We needed sites that were not involved in any capital improvement projects that didn't already have sort of retrofits planned and budgeted. We didn't want to compete with those. We really wanted to carve off projects and sort of unburden the CIP, or not complicate the CIP, the capital improvements program. We also were looking for sites that, knowing that this is going to be a long-term contract with financing that we are going to be paying back for many years, we needed sites that were going to be in operation under sort of their current operating schedule for a good number of decades, right? Like we don't want to be touching sites that are going to completely change or get torn down or, you know, undergo some other major change over the next 20 years or so. And then we were also looking for sites, you know, that were in disadvantaged communities and that were appealing for retrofit from the perspective of the asset managing department, right? So there are various concerns from various departments about us coming in and impacting their facilities. So just for example, we had pretty much we had a good number of fire rescue stations included in the preliminary assessments. But we unfortunately have not included any fire rescue stations in the final retrofit portfolio for a number of reasons. And, you know, part of that is just the complications of working on a facility that is in operation 24/7 and serves as a home to its staff when they're at work, essentially. So yeah, we had quite a few different metrics that we were assessing, and that helped us deliver that or land on that final list.
Great, thank you.
Yep, and I have the, let's see, okay. The retrofits are expected to garner an annual energy reduction of over 11 terawatt hours of electricity, 50,000 therms of natural gas, and 4.6 million gallons of water, again, annually, equating to about 260 million tons of CO2 equivalent annually.
Any follow-up questions to that? I'm just getting that down.
I'm like, I want to look back at what the target was here, and you got that in million tons as well, so 15. Yeah, I can't quite do the percentages in my head, but I'm sure you have a target in mind. Yeah.
And if we have
Thank
any
you.
follow-up questions, we can send those to you and post the answers. Wonderful. Any other questions? Comments? Yes.
I have one, Lindsay, thank you very much. Super interesting and comprehensive. The hazard mitigation grant program that the city has sounds very interesting. I wonder if, given some of the things that we were talking about just before your presentation, and we'll hopefully be talking about next year, are there stipulations in this kind of grant, or this grant in particular, or from the city side, that would say the scope of this kind of facility needs to be a backup facility, and it can't just run all day long for that community to decentralize and take them off the grid routinely? Does it have to be a backup facility as a resiliency project, or can it be a energy generation project?
I mean, I think resilience, correct me if I'm wrong, generally speaking, means the ability to withstand disruptions, right? And bounce back from disruptions. So from a resilience perspective, we're going to be focused on facilities that can provide a service that allows our communities to withstand disruptions and or bounce back from disruptions, right? I mean, that's, I think, the framework under which we're perceiving this analysis and this project. That said, from an energy resilience perspective, we're talking about PV and battery storage. Yes, there will be microgrid controls that will allow it to island during those disruptions, but the PV and the battery storage will be operating 24 or, you know, during the hours under which they would normally operate, right? So we would absolutely be seeing during blue sky conditions, on-site generation, you know, peak shaving, rate arbitrage, all the other benefits that come from solar and battery storage.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that was basically it. It's going to be on all the time, and it will have a resiliency benefit in that during a during a situation, during a hazard, during an event, it
Yep.
continues to provide that service, but it's working for the city to benefit the city in terms of all of those other benefits also.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thanks, Lindsay. The hazard mitigation grant program, does the city's program interface at all with the county's grant program, or are they kind of siloed and then working up through Cal OES on project applications?
I am not familiar with the county's
Okay.
project, so I'm gonna go with siloed on that one.
Okay, got it. And then just make sure I understand the financing for the ESPC. You said that it's 100% financed through energy savings.
Correct.
Wow, okay, congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's great. The city is so inefficient currently that the financing really works out, right? Yes, yes.
That's a pessimistic way to look at it.
And just a
Rents are expensive.
clarification on your question. So for this project, the hazard mitigation grant is fully a city project. For the hazard mitigation plans and the updates of the plans, those are coordinated through the county
Okay,
and with our Office of Emergency Services, and we are involved and engaged in that planning effort.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
Any other comments, Lord?
I
Yes.
had one other question, to follow up on Abel's question, and then to, Lindsay, I think you said that you would like the community energy resilience hub to be in a neighborhood that really needs it, a disadvantaged neighborhood. What are the ways at which we, the city, can make that a component of the prioritization scheme? Is there space in there, and will it be used in order to say that's an important component of how we want to choose the right location?
That's a good question. I imagine during the internal engagement that we pursue, we would establish the guidelines and the goals that we, intend to attempt to meet and deliver on as part, in delivery of energy resilience hubs. And I imagine guiding documents like our climate equity index and, just our equity program generally will help inform those goals. And I think there's general buy-in for focusing this type of benefit and resource first in our disadvantaged communities. So we'll see where it goes, but we do have those guiding documents in place that will certainly inform the end product.
I didn't have any specific questions, but thank you. Interesting presentation.
Thank you very, very much. We greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks,
All
everybody.
right.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Turn to item 8B, which is updates from the Environment Committee. So that's mine. And then Julie, after I'm done, we'll have some updates on your end. This was the Environment Committee meeting last month. We had city staff present on the Climate Action Plan, Climate Resilient San Diego, transportation. Julie, of course, presented on that item as well. I presented our report along with the chair of CAB, Tanisha Jean Martin. So most of the takeaways were from Council President LaCava, who really synthesized
Are they frozen for you,
And-
Julia?
I think they're frozen for me. Let me
Okay.
send them a chat.
speak to
They're
the
there.
communities. I'm sorry.
You guys cut out for a little bit, but
Okay.
you're back now.
Okay, good. Just to reiterate, with our priority on wildfire resiliency, being an example of a topic that would really resonate with residents in terms of everyday life. So was good feedback in terms of, as we look forward to planning for the next year. He did ask Julie about, similar to the cap and greenhouse gas emission reductions, is resiliency integrated into all city department work plans? And that relates to one of our recommendations about integrating resiliency into infrastructure, et cetera. Julie pointed out there are two ways to sorry, there were two ways to do it. I think that was Kelly brought it up, through design standards and guidelines and specific opportunities. So, you know, one at a time as those opportunities come up, and then comparing that with, just with regular maintenance and updates, et cetera. And then the last one was bringing items to the boards before they get too far along. He understood that could be difficult, and Kelly noted that she and her staff will work on a roadmap. Julia, you had a couple comments on that. Would you like to bring that directly here?
Yeah, I mean, the roadmap is still in progress, and we'll certainly, once that's finalized, share it with the board. I think in general, what we like to do is similar to what we did for the Coastal Resilience Master Plan. So when a planning document or a policy is in development, that we're bringing it to the board as an information item during plan development, and then it would come back to the board for a formal recommendation as it's moving through the public hearing process. So for Climate Resilient SD, when the draft plan was released, we came and did an informational item to the Resiliency Advisory Board. And then the Resiliency Advisory Board was essentially the first stop in our public hearing process before moving on to Environment Committee. So I anticipate the roadmap will have a similar pathway, but may have a little bit more detail around what that looks like. But that's what we're striving to do. And I think, you know, one of the priorities and part of my role is resilience means so many things for the city and crosses over many different departments, many different work programs, and making sure that there's awareness across all of our departments of this board because it's new, and so that other project managers are building that into their project schedule to make sure that they're coming to the board when they have items that are moving forward.
Okay. Do we have any members of the public have any comment? See any, does the board have any questions or comment? Yes.
I just wanted to thank you and Julia for the presentations. I thought it was really great reflection on this committee. I think the comments specifically from the council president were very much in support of this committee and the work that we're doing. And then the comments from the committee chair also were in support. They just were less comments. So one of the comments from the council president, I think were along the lines of this committee has the ability to really directly impact the residents through kind of recommendations on infrastructure and other things. So looking forward to working on it all next year.
A big thanks to the vice chair and the secretary Garrett for helping me put together that presentation. So greatly appreciated.
You did a great
Thanks to the
job.
chatbot. Nobody watch that, please. Okay. And any just general thoughts or questions?
Just ditto. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Um,
Okay.
I-
Oh, sis.
I wanted to say something kind of on regarding Lindsay's presentation, nothing specific, but that's like my very squarely where I work is in the ESPC. So I'm very familiar with that. I think it's cool that they went that route. But anyway, I think the cool thing, when one of you mentioned about the that the city must be so efficient that that's why there's so many savings, which is the whole, like, I think renewables and battery storage are so important, but I think reducing load as much as possible, getting that as low as possible before sizing solar systems or battery storage is the right way to do it. I think energy efficiency cannot be more important when doing any of these energy resiliency, energy renewable projects. Otherwise, you're going to have to put up way too much solar, too big of batteries. None of that is a good thing. So both behaviorally conserving energy, educating building staff, people that are in the building on how to, keep energy use as low as possible, and then doing things like LED lighting, HVAC retrofits, all of that before doing those renewables and more obviously resiliency measures is really crucial. So I just wanted to kind of like point that out as we continue our energy discussions about transmission and generation and all of that, but just the importance of energy efficiency as the precursor to all of that.
Excellent point. Oh, did you have something to add?
I have a dumb question for Jamie. What's the difference in cost if you were to kind of lump up a typical, say, for example, a single family house for San Diego and lumping up the cost of doing the efficiency stuff that you mentioned, like HVAC, let's say windows, things like that, compared to before doing, like a PV system or a battery system? What's usually the difference in
Anna,
terms of percentage? Like
yeah.
how much more expensive is it to do PV and battery versus the efficiency stuff that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, I think they should all be looked at together, and I have really no experience working on a home level, but when you look at a big city level that's across multiple buildings, and I'm sorry, I'm really not going to have a number for you, but you can imagine like LED lighting and even like street lighting retrofits in a big city before you size the solar is it makes a huge difference, but I'll have to get you actual numbers. Light, lighting is one of those retrofits that produces so many savings that it actually helps recoup the cost of so many other things. Like, so grouping them together in like a bundled project is super impactful. You're frozen. They're frozen again for me. You too, Julia.
Yeah, me too. My son's hacked our chat.
The board.
Oh, there's-
Oh, there, yeah, froze for
You
a
were
second.
frozen.
Yes, we're moving on to
Okay.
bylaws. So, Jamie, do you have any initial thoughts on the bylaws?
The bylaws, I mean, I think the thing that we have been discussing is kind of what I was just doing and what Erica brought up in the unfinished business is just if necessary, making sure to note that we want to include time for discussion amongst ourselves as a crucial part of every agenda, not to pack each 2-ish hour meeting with information items if possible. I don't know if that needs to be part of the bylaws though, does it?
I don't think so. I think that's more just kind of like agenda management and getting a sense for how long we want to have for discussion of items. I think you guys have been very busy this year and there's been a lot of really good discussion, but I think making sure that we don't have too much on each agenda is
Print
a
them
good
out,
point.
wrote all of
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
These are the current bylaws, and in the bylaws includes to review them every year. So, there you go. Yes, so.
Check.
Yes. Yes.
So reviewed.
Yes, so section 7A talks about the order of business. So do you want to propose and adding something there? I
Yeah.
don't know if it would fit within the agenda, but could just be under, a new item B
Oh,
stating.
yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, without proposing a percentage of the meeting or a time, just I would motion to add an item to the typical meeting agenda that includes board member discussion.
I think we want to be careful that it's not just general discussion. We want the agendas to be clear to the public of what you're going to be discussing. So I think I would lean more towards just having that be something that the chair and I are kind of looking at with each agenda and as we're planning them out, that they're not overpacked. Because when we post the agendas, we want the members of the public to be able to see here are the items that are going to be discussed today versus just general discussion doesn't give that kind of insight to the public. So I think I would keep it just as something for Cynthia, the chair, and I to kind of manage overall agenda.
Yes,
Well, if I could make another sort of build on Jamie's
Okay.
suggestion, and that would be to direct this notion to the items under, typically under item 8,
Mhm.
information items. Make sure there's a discussion item there each time, so it would be very focused on each of the presentations. Because that's typically where we, need time, and in the case of, Dr. Christoph, we didn't have the time last time to actually have that discussion.
Okay, so I just put roughly ensure time, I'll put for either under item 8 for the board to have a substantive discussion about those items. And wordsmith that a bit.
Yeah.
Add substantive. That's
Under, as an amendment to Jamie's motion.
yes. Well, should we discuss first and then because one person's suggestion might interact with another, so we could have some
Okay.
have discussion as we discussed. And then
Discussion.
yes. We're not going so back and forth, and we could either take suggestions all in a group or go through them one by one. How does that sound? Right, anyone have other thoughts on that or another part of the bylaws? Yes.
If Erica is suggesting that whenever we put something under item 8, we also put and discuss, that makes sense to me. I think it would be a good reminder. And it would be clear to the public that we'll be discussing that item. But yeah,
That's what I meant. Thank you.
yeah,
Okay,
I appreciate, Chair, that you move us along and get us actually done by 2 hours, but it is nice for me at least to have a reminder to say, we're gonna get a presentation and we're gonna discuss it. So be ready and have some of that discussion ready.
as long as it takes for us to get our job done. Sarah.
I guess my only comment on that is, if we have to add and discuss on every item, if we forget adding and discuss, is that the implication we're not going to discuss? I mean, I think we have to balance this with the Brown Act, which is what Julia said it before I could, is we can't talk about and decide on things that aren't on the agenda. I was gonna say I liked how we had it on the agenda, and I assume Erica asked to have on the agenda the follow-up of the last meeting. So I don't know, not to overcomplicate it, but maybe it is that sentence we say, number 7, unfinished business can also be for follow-up discussions, for other items from previous meetings, something like that.
Something like for B, I'm just gonna say chair shall ensure there is sufficient time for a board to have substantive discussion on the items.
On the information items.
Yeah.
That's where I was trying to focus it, not on everything on the agenda, but specifically on the presentations that we have coming in here. And I agree with you that as a second option, there is the chance to have it carried over to the other meeting, which I felt I needed to do last time because we didn't have a chance to talk about it.
Mhm.
We didn't have enough time. So I think it does get back to the creation of each agenda and how much stuff goes on it, because we know we're gonna have, 10 whatever minutes of discussion after a presentation, then maybe we don't put so much stuff on each agenda.
Yes.
And I think that's the spirit of what Jamie was getting at. We need to have time to talk about these things when they're fresh.
On the regular items, so that would include both information and action.
Action, I would take an action item, agenda item to be a discussion item, but yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Sufficient.
think unless there are items that are very quick for discussion, I would generally say for a resilience topic, you need at least 30 minutes. We tell our presenters about 15, 20 minutes to present. That gives about 10 to 15 minutes for discussion. For items that are action items, we might then put, maybe it's closer to 45 minutes that we save on the agenda. And so, Cynthia, as you and I are looking at the agendas, that will just be something that we need to balance. Items that are city items that are coming forward as an info item or an action item would be prioritized over resilience topics. And I think that's where too, we kind of need to think about and plan out our year. And that is, for me to look at what is coming forward and timelines for different projects on the city side. And then, plan out with the resilience topics so that we make sure that items that need to come forward to the resiliency board have space on the agenda, but also that your agendas are not too packed and that you're able to have discussion around some of the other topics of interest.
Yeah, so the question is how prescriptive we want to be with that. Because it's a bit more of an art than a science, I would say. Because we could say something like, information items will generally be around 30 minutes and action items around 45 minutes, or we just want to have that, put it on the chair to ensure that there's sufficient time.
I would not, my own preference is not to put time limits in the bylaws. That seems to me to be a degree of micromanagement we don't need. But the importance of discussion items after presentation to me was the core thing to get into the, I was just picking up on Jamie's sense that we need to do that. I agree with that.
Any additional thoughts? on that? So what oh,
I have
Okay.
additional bylaw thoughts.
well, should we vote on this one specifically? Or,
Yeah. one at a time,
Okay.
I think.
any more discussion on this before we open up to a motion? Does anyone want to make, and I can state this as best I can, Jamie, if you're keeping track. Chair shall ensure that the board has sufficient time to have or hold a substantive discussion on the regular items.
On the information items.
Well, information and action both are under regular items.
Looking at the agenda, not the bylaws.
Or you could put in parentheses, information and e.g. information and action items. Would that suffice, or?
I was just trying to narrow it even further,
Okay.
just to the information items, the action items, that again, I think is chair prerogative.
Mhm.
Where would this get amended into?
This would be section 7B, creating a new
Okay,
subsection B. So chair shall ensure the board has sufficient time to hold a substantive discussion on the regular items, and then e.g. or such as information and action items. Is that clear?
I defer to Jamie. Should have.
Are you doing two things at the same time?
Me, no, I'm writing it down, but that's clear to me. That makes sense. I think it accomplishes the goal. So it'll be under 7B, you said. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes. Did anyone want to make a motion?
A motion. Do I need to repeat it?
We move, well, you read it out as we'd be wording it, so. So are you making a motion on that wording to amend the bylaws with that?
Yes, on the wording that you just stated.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. You,
Who was the second?
that was
Andrew
Meyer.
Meyer.
I got it.
Any additional discussion on that? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Opposed? All right, unanimous. So we can talk about, I know Julie, you have some thoughts on the bylaws, but just checking to see anyone else on the board have thoughts or suggested modifications to the bylaws.
I confess that I'm not prepared. I come with a markup. I missed that one on the agenda, but I continue to have an issue with the way we use the word goal as opposed to objectives. And I find that language confusing, but I'm not prepared with any alternative at the moment, so.
I'm trying to see if that's under work plan. I think that, yeah, the work plan doesn't have anything about goals. I believe that was just for our first work plan that we added that in. So there's nothing in the bylaws about that.
Okay, so that's amendable on the next.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Julie, before I dive into my minutia.
Yeah, so the one suggestion I would have is within the bylaws, we say that we're going to meet on the third Thursday of each month. The 2026 legislative calendar has been adopted. I can put a link to that in the chat, and then if it's helpful for folks, we can put that in the meeting minutes. But I believe every one of your meetings after April will conflict with environment committee. So I don't know if we want to change all of your meeting minutes or if we want to just remove that from the bylaws and change dates. I have proposed meetings dates based off of the Environment Committee uh, dates that I'll put that in the chat as well. So, for example, for April, Environment Committee is the third Thursday, so I moved you guys to the fourth Thursday. Similarly, for May, Environment Committee is the third Thursday, so I moved you to the fourth Thursday. We could also just update the bylaws to say, you know, we'll be meeting
Third or
on the
fourth.
third or fourth Thursday. And then what I would do, just so it's clear for everyone, both board members and the public, is we'll post the full year worth of meetings on the Resiliency Advisory Board webpage so that there's not any confusion. Because right now, because it's always the third Thursday, it's pretty straightforward. But since it would be the third or the fourth, we can post the full year meeting dates on the website.
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, could we make the bylaws just say that like the target is the third or fourth, but we'll annually adopt a calendar that says what the dates will be? If next year all the Thursdays line up differently and we go
You
to
have to keep
second.
updating it. Yeah, I think that's fine. And probably a smart move.
Is it more desirable to have third and fourth, or just move to the fourth?
Yeah, I would prefer not to move to the fourth as a standing item. I have another group that I participate in that does the same time on the fourth Thursday of the month. So I can deal with it if it's an either or, and that way it's occasionally on the fourth, not every single month.
And the second Thursday is not an option, Julie? I'm just gonna go through all the days.
Yeah, you could do the second Thursday. The second Thursday tends to be Land Use and Housing Committee, if it's not Environment Committee, which there's not maybe as much overlap, but still some overlap.
I think Eric's suggestion of just, as needed, and we post an annual schedule.
Okay,
Well, if we're tracking things for next year's recommendations from our board, it should be that the Environment Committee should pick a Thursday and stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
And not our Thursday, actually, let's put that in there too.
I have suggested so far is, I'll just read the whole part on meetings, because we don't have anything about posting a schedules. For those who are following, that's Article 4, Section 1A, right? The Resiliency Advisory Board shall meet monthly, except August and December, on the third Thursday. So the proposal is changed to the third or fourth Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. The location for regular meetings will be located within or near the Civic Center. So the question is just to update to add the or fourth, or to add anything about posting a calendar.
Can we remove the Thursday part altogether and just say we'll adopt a calendar every year? Just to provide us some flexibility so we don't have to keep changing it from year to year.
So something like ending after August, September, create a new sentence. The Resiliency Advisory Board will post a calendar at the beginning of the year or at the end. How would you phrase that?
That's a great idea. Yeah.
We'll post.
I guess if we adopt a calendar this upcoming year and we can't make quorum, then it would be subject to change. So I think it would just create some language that makes it flexible enough that we can still change the adopted calendar once the dates get closer to, I guess. But I don't know if we need that.
Jamie, sorry, Julia, will we be adopting that at the end of the calendar year or at the beginning of the calendar year?
You would want to, if you're going to determine when you meet, which I think my suggestion would be to have some type of regular meeting schedule, because I do think that makes it easier on the public than if 1 month you're meeting the first Tuesday and then the next month is the third Thursday. I think that gets harder for the public to track. So I do think it's nice to have some sort of kind of regular cadence of when you're meeting.
Well, I mean, for the whole year. So for example, to post a calendar at December for the full next calendar year, or to adopt it on January, because I don't know when city staff needs to have that figured out with,
Either
all
is
the
fine
dates.
on our end, whether it's end of the year for the next year or, the first month of the following year. I think either is fine. The legislative calendars, I believe, are typically adopted in October or November, so those would be set in advance. Um, and then if we adopt whichever the dates are, we'll post those on our website for the following year.
Because of course, we don't meet in December, so it would have to be this month.
Abel, do you have any thoughts on that?
We could keep the word Thursday in there and just get rid of third. If
Well,
we
we-
wanted some sort of like regularity for,
We already voted to make it the third or say, go, sorry, you could always change it again.
Because they just like typically will meet on the third or fourth Thursday, but will adopt a calendar of meetings by the first month or whatever you want to set.
So if I have the RAB will adopt a calendar of meetings prior to the following calendar year. Wordsmithing,
I don't think we'll meet that.
Yeah.
year.
Not meeting until
That's what
January,
Okay.
right?
so, okay, that's fine. No, I'm just, if that would be, so it will adopt a calendar at the
At
beginning,
the
the first meeting of the new calendar year.
yeah.
Which is hopefully gonna be the third.
I mean, did Julia just give us the days that
yeah,
we
we
can
could
meet?
adopt it
Can
right
we just
now
adopt it right now?
theoretically.
That was the question.
Look, I don't know if we can adopt it right now.
Well, it hasn't been noticed, but still, if it's
Yeah.
part of the bylaws.
Oh, so it falls under that.
Yeah, well, we don't need to put the dates in the bylaws though.
Yes.
No, but so
Yeah.
taking action today.
Yeah,
So we can put it on, please correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but we could put it on the calendar for January because we already have it in the bylaws. It's typically the third, and fourth. And we have rescheduled the meetings directly with Julia when things came up.
Mhm.
And those meetings were noticed at appropriate time, 72 hours, I believe. So that would be the major items, is that they're noticed at the proper time.
Correct. If we're changing, we have to do additional noticing if we do a special meeting, so not when you're typically meeting, or if we have, like if we adjourn a meeting, we do additional noticing around that. I think for today, you could adopt the proposed changes for the bylaws. You don't need to adopt the dates. And then if everyone wants to look at their calendars, like Erica, if you end up having, I think many of those are actually on the fourth Thursday. So if, the majority of those are not going to work for you, maybe we propose the second Thursday of the month. But that could be a January agenda item that you're actually adopting the dates for 2026. And then following that, I will post them to the website, but you could adopt the changes for the bylaws today and then the actual dates in January.
Okay, so we already made the change to the third or fourth Thursday. And what's proposed is that the RAB will adopt a calendar of meetings at the first meeting of the new calendar year. Discussion.
A motion, oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead if you're making it.
I motion that we amend the bylaws with that amendment.
Any second?
You want a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
One discussion
Yes.
point, to let perfect be the enemy of good,
yeah.
but
But-
it'd be nice to adopt a calendar soon after the city adopts their
Yeah.
legislative program for the following year. So it would be nice to have our meeting set before the new year, following on the heels of when the city takes action. So that would be most likely the November meeting, assuming a December meeting doesn't happen.
Okay, I'm just going to play around with the wording like this to see if we could make this here. So something like will adopt a calendar prior for the full calendar year for 2026 in January. Subsequently,
There you go.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
future years.
Wordsmithing by committee is difficult. Could we just say by the first meeting in January? So that it's.
Oh, by, so that,
Yeah, so that it's
yeah,
not,
Give them some flexibility.
yeah, I like that.
Okay, so I changed at to by.
yeah.
Yes.
By the,
By
By
the
the
first
By the
meeting
first
in
meeting.
January of the new year.
Okay, so following, yes,
I accept that change in my amendment. Right.
well, following Robert's rules, what you could do is either
you'll
vote on
also amend it.
amendments or we could just let the original motion
What about a
fail.
substitutionary?
Okay, well, let's just do see if we can hold a vote on the amendment and then just go back. So, okay, would anyone like to move on the amendment?
I can move on the amendment.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Can I second that?
No. Or again, I'm not going to let to have amendments on amendments, just like, okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that passes. So the main motion is now that RIB will adopt a calendar of meetings by the first meeting of the new calendar year. We already have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Oh, yes.
Opposed? All right, that passes. All right, I'll start going into some suggestions for the bylaws on my end. Hope it won't be too painful. And then if anyone else has any suggestions, please let me know. What, a lot of these are clerical, but in case I make this worse, please correct me. Adding page numbers, because I was printing this out, I was trying not to get it out of order. All right, under section, Article 2, Section 3B, food, I think this is still a carryover from a placeholder. It says an excused absence is defined per the language in, and there's a bracket citation to the Assembly Bill and or government code. I was just adding the citation itself and that possibly even just copy and paste the actual text into the bylaws so people don't have to go look it up because I am lazy.
That's not true.
A question is under officers for chair, vice chair, and secretary term limits. Are there any thoughts on term limits?
Just for officers.
Yes.
So does it say, what does it actually say in that term limits?
There's nothing.
Then I don't see any need to have.
No, it's hard enough to get people as it is. I think once they're in, then.
You do have annual elections, so in theory, you
Yeah.
know, the seats will be reelected each year.
I would make a cautionary note for everyone to keep an eye on that, because I'm sure we all have stories where there's not a rotation of fresh blood in the officer positions, so.
They just have to be voted out. Or choose not to run.
Okay.
Those are your options.
So, section, did you have a comment on that? Section 5A, Roman numeral. Just a small change to add an Oxford comma that's missing and a that's missing. I have very strong feelings about Oxford comma.
I share those beliefs.
I used to be anti, then I got converted.
Yes.
The city does not do Oxford comma, Cynthia, so I'm sorry.
Okay,
We
then we'll just
probably will
remove
pull
it.
them out of the bylaws.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So I
Sorry.
make plan to take all the Oxford the point is consistency, so now I'll make note to change all to AP style with no Oxford commas. That's the part that drives me somewhat mad. Pick one and stick with it. All right. So as
I
a,
support the city on this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm team consistency.
Well, that makes sense.
Wording on item 3 under section 3 under the same article. Just put it said it's coordinate with other city advisory boards and city departments such as Forest Advisory Board, Planning Commission. There was a missing and. The Climate Advisory Board is needed and as it says as it relates, I put as related to. That's a wording issue because it made more sense. Pause here for any comments on that part. There's a section on the annual report, which currently just states in the fourth quarter of every calendar year, the board shall submit an annual report to the Office of Boards and Commissions. There's nothing here on the Environment Committee. I didn't see, so I just have a suggestion B, also to also submit the annual report to the Environment Committee and arrange for a presentation. Thoughts on that one? It's, we made a change on that part.
This is why we can't determine this.
Yeah.
Well, presumably this
Yeah.
would be it, right? Just making all the amendments.
Yeah.
If she has to make amendments next year, then we're also in trouble, just, you know.
I'll just mention there are a couple consistent things on whether we spell out or have abbreviation for climate resilient San Diego. That's another. No Oxford comma here, changing a may to which, and then just matching verbs to carry out. Yeah, discuss this.
Okay. The bylaws?
We did. There was a
Yeah.
subcommittee.
They're all fired.
We're almost there.
I had
I
term
was
limits
on
to the
that.
subcommittee.
Oh, my God.
No, I don't think you were. I think
Are
you
you
were on the
sure?
work program subcommittee.
Work program, I see.
Bear with me.
Thank you for cover.
Article.
Appreciate it.
I was.
I'll slip you a 5 later.
Yes, article, here's one, there's an orphan parentheses in Article 5D, just to get rid of that. Yes, 2 commas, if comma, prior to meeting comma, to add that. No extra comment there, and I think that's it.
Sorry, I was in the bathroom. I just noticed one in Article 4. I think it was like, where did it go? Oh my God, where did it go? Article 4, Section 2, Item C. Those like sub bullets, one of them has a comma, the rest are semicolons. I don't know.
Don't tell Cynthia, she's gonna lose it.
Okay, where is it?
I mean,
It's on page
if only there were
5,
page
but
numbers.
if only had page numbers.
I already suggested that.
Okay, great.
Oh, I think here it is. It's one here, okay.
Yeah, the open bullet. point.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The chair recommends we make these changes.
So moved.
Mhm. Could you just repeat it? back? Oh.
I could just hand this to you and you could go through it.
Playing with fire, my friend.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion? There's someone shaking their head. All right. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. I will make these in red line and send it to the secretary. I think that the most important lesson was to add page numbers to these things. All right, so that was item 9A. We're now on to item 9B, which is ad hoc subcommittee for fiscal year 2026 work plan to discuss and select subcommittee members. Quick note on this one is because we discussed earlier switching from calendar year to fiscal year. So that would be for this one, it would be something like an 18-month plan because we'd have to catch up on the calendar year to June and then to July and then July to June. So just want to make sure that makes sense.
So January 26th through June of 27.
27.
That, I'm confused, that's the scope of the new work plan to cover that?
Yes, if we're switching to fiscal year, or we could do a 6-month one
Okay.
and then switch it over, or we could
Just
just
make
do it
one
for,
one.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
pause partway through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so people, as we discuss that, to know what scope of time we have to work with. All right,
Make a motion for ad hoc committee, 6 months.
all right. You just volunteered yourself. Okay.
And you're off.
Wait, did you just agree to do a 6-month one?
No,
No.
Ian's being silly.
You missed the link. It doesn't quite go through.
Wait,
Zoom.
Wait, so was there to not do a 6-month one or just no?
18
decision
months.
to do that?
Yes,
18 months,
Yeah.
yeah.
there's no vote needed, just as it's the default right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do one starting in January, but it'll go through 18 months. Okay, I understand.
Yes.
There has to be some amount of time to do it.
I was just gonna request that we do one sooner than later because I think we've exhausted the wildfire discussion.
Yes, the goal is to have a discussion now on a broad level, have an ad hoc task force or subcommittee to prepare a draft, which will be ready for the January meeting to discuss in greater detail. All right, we'll open it up just to general thoughts or very, very specific thoughts on looking forward to the next 18-month period.
Before you get into that, I think I know you are reporting to environment.
Julia, your voice faded out a bit.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I know you're reporting to Environment Committee on the fiscal year basis to help inform budget, but I think your work plan, if you want it to still be on an annual basis, like your last work plan where it was for 2025 is fine. It just means that when you're reporting out to Environment Committee, you're kind of looking across two of your work plans. Um, but I feel like 18 months is a very long work plan that you might be better suited to do 12 months and give yourselves time and space to adjust to like what your goals and priorities are as different things are coming up, either based off of current events or what you're hearing from the city. Um, Food for thought. I think you can go either way, but it might be, I don't think just because you're doing the fiscal year reporting to Environment Committee that your work plan necessarily has to be tied to that if you don't want it to be.
Okay, so the calendar year, and no need to vote on that because we'll be bringing forward the ad hoc committee or task force will be bringing forward the post work plan.
Correct.
Okay, so I see nods, so I'll put that under focus areas and suggestions to make it calendar year. Just open up, yes,
Can I give a suggestion for something to be potentially included?
yes, absolutely.
So I don't know if this would be one of the main topics or sort of a subtopic that we have, but it was really telling when the water district was here, talking about how expensive stormwater, sort of water retention supply is. But we haven't heard directly from the city stormwater department. I know at the Environment Committee, they were giving a report right after this item, but I wasn't able to stay on for it. But I think sort of a request to see what is the city doing from a stormwater, water quality, quantity, and potentially drinking water, if possible, perspective and how those things do overlap. I know there's a lot of requirements with Regional Water Board, but that's something that could be interesting to hear.
Okay. Any thoughts?
So that could be a presentation, an informational presentation.
Yeah. And if it isn't in the work program, it could always be one of the information ones that might help facilitate, for example, but
Yes, and we don't necessarily have to get into depth of how it would be presented unless you have a very specific thought on that, but if it's just a topic that you'd like to have discussed, you could just note that down. Yes.
That's a great idea. To add on to that, there's a lot that informed organization that's not within the city could add to that conversation, because the stormwater department is woefully underfunded and has been for a long time, and probably it would be great to have an outside perspective on where that funding could or should come from and how other cities fund their stormwater departments in a way that city staff won't be able to address fully. So just, I think when we talk about stormwater, it's a huge resiliency topic, because it has to do with how we deal with large floods, large rainstorms, all that kind of stuff. It would be great to get the city's perspective, and I've heard them a couple of times in past years say, this is what we can do and here's what we can't do kind of thing, and it would be great to also have another expert that would say, well, here's how the city should do it, to add on to that. So.
yeah, I agree.
I love that general idea of having, external people that maybe other cities or counties who have done something effectively, give an example of how they did whatever they did. Or a company that supported those types of projects. I think that's a really cool idea that can provide a lot of good context.
Okay.
So kind of like instead of hearing about, not that we've only heard about issues and problems, but like instead of hearing about issues, hear about like different solutions that have been tested.
Okay.
I'll just add, Stormwater's presentation that followed our update to the environment committee does a really good job of, I think, sharing about some of the work that they've been doing, the prioritization of channel clearing to address flooding, but also some of the funding constraints that they have and why certain funding opportunities haven't been pursued from the city side. So I think if you want to have those types of presentations to the board to rewatch that as like a foundation of kind of like the city side, and then that might help inform too like what else you want to hear about and who would be good speakers to add on to that conversation.
Erica, you might have some thoughts on the electric grid.
Well, that I was interested in the debrief we had earlier about that kind of content and the nature of what people might still want to know. And where that fits into this. I think what I got out of that was that there is a lot
Are they cutting out for you again, Jamie?
of this
Yeah,
mentioned.
there they are.
So they're both big ones.
Any other suggestions for topics we could choose? And it doesn't just have to be subject, it could be format. It could be bigger picture like public engagement.
Well, the question is, if we're gonna pick an overarching theme, the way we did wildfire resilience, what would that theme be? What do we want it to be for 26? And maybe the committee thinks about that themselves. And comes up with it.
So it's just,
An idea.
just consider overlap or overarching.
Yeah. And then how topics or info presentations would support that, would get us to some kind of, I guess I'm also looking toward the end of the year when we do our plan and we do our recommendations. So what kind of things would come out of whatever that topic area would be? What kinds of things might we want to put forward for final recommendations? Mhm.
Yes.
In the environment committee update that you gave, Cynthia, or that Julia mentioned, it was mentioned that Kelly, I think Stanko
Yes.
will create a roadmap for what city projects are coming, they see in the coming year.
I believe so, Julia. Any?
Yeah, she is going to be working on, she oversees a bunch of boards that have liaisons within the city planning department. So we'll be working on a roadmap that will outline more of the process for how items should come forward to the various boards. And then for me specifically, it would be mapping out what items are coming to the Resiliency Advisory Board.
Okay, that sounds super useful,
That'd be
both
great,
of those
yeah.
pieces, but it also seems like it should, whenever we do these kinds of work plans, as much foresight as we can get from Julia, the city liaison will help inform what we know we have to do.
Okay,
and could do.
so for the ad hoc subcommittee, that could be, Julie, if you could provide what information you have on what will be coming up in the calendar year and roughly when.
Yep, I can do that.
And just go to Drew's point, I think that our overarching, like, topic should be directly informed by what's coming through that year, in my opinion, just so that we can have a better understanding of like what's actually going through. If there's like a common theme through all of those things, it would make things really easy, I guess, but yeah, just being able to work in tandem with what's coming through the calendar year.
Okay, couple items that I'll throw out there. First of all, having meetings out in the community, CAB's done an excellent job with that. I'd like to see us at least aim or commit to 3 in the communities District 4, 8, and 9. We've discussed here about prioritizing communities of concern, disadvantaged communities. I know there's various terms there, but to tie whatever our theme is to the communities and engaging them as much as possible.
Are you talking specifically about our regular meetings, like bringing it out there, or special
Special,
meetings?
probably be easier to make them easier in terms of people being able to attend and us having quorum is to work with Julia on figuring out which dates for regular meetings, even if we have to change it from 1/3 to, I don't know, weekends so people can attend, but
Because there's a clause in the bylaw about location.
yes,
That says we need to stay around the civic center.
I think it was usually me.
Oh, was
And
there
then-
a usually?
Yeah, there's also special meetings, but that's how you divide it. Yes. Shall meet the location for regular meetings. Yes, Julia, that's correct. But for special meetings, that's question is a special meeting encompassing the regular meeting? So, yeah, a little bit of legalese there.
Just from the city's perspective, I think we have I think some concerns with that approach only because I do think it has contributed to the Climate Advisory Board not making quorum. They've had real difficulty making quorum this past year. And it also adds
Yeah,
additional difficulty in terms of securing a venue, a space, making sure it has AV, the additional time to get to and from locations. So I would just say from our perspective, we do have, I think, some concerns with that approach versus having there be one regular meeting location that both for board members, but also for the public, that they know that is always where those meetings are held.
yes. So the question is regular meetings will be held in the Civic Center Plaza, but this is a special meeting where we cover regular business. I'm certain someone will correct me if that is improper reading of that.
How did climate board do it? Were they, were they regular meetings? Are they regular monthly meetings in locations, different locations?
Yes, they're set up differently in terms of, they believe they try, or they usually have, they rotate among council districts.
Oh,
However, if there is a clash between what we want to do and the bylaws, then the subcommittee can make a recommendation if there need to be any further changes to the bylaws. I'm just mentioning that so not to let that stop something that we think would be a good idea and help us fulfill our mission, our mandate better. So I'm just putting this out there as something to consider. Well, I'd like to see us at least do 3 in those particular communities. Especially since we do not currently have, well, Jamie is also from District 9, though we don't have someone from nominated, but we are still waiting on District 8, and we do not have anyone in the pipeline at all for District 4. So we could prioritize that or some other way. I think someone was going to say something. Yes, yeah.
Does that have to be a special meeting in the sense where it's added on to our monthly meetings, or could we swap out a special meeting for that month if we don't do a regular meeting?
Julie, as far as you're aware, is that permissible?
It would be, I think in your bylaws right now, you say you're going to meet down at or near the Civic Center. So if we were to do a different location, I think we would just need to I don't know that we would need to do anything differently, but we would need to make sure that we're noticing it correctly.
Yes.
And probably do some additional noticing to support that because that would be different than what is your typical meeting location.
Yes, just we have some terminology, regular meeting versus special meeting. I think that might be,
I'm just thinking in terms of, especially if we do it like during non-business hours, then most people can come. I'm trying to be sensitive to everyone's time constraints.
In the special meeting, it talks about, yeah, it does talk about trying, considering things like childcare time, et cetera.
Yeah, it seems to me that special meetings are definitely outside our normal course of events. So
Yes.
that the regular meetings are those here. Special
Yes.
meetings have special features,
Yes.
locations, times, all of the above.
Yeah, I remember, Erica, you made several good points, which is why they ended up in here. Yes, special meetings should include transportation, accessibility, childcare, refreshment opportunities, translation, et cetera, as feel as
What's our
feasible.
budget?
Yeah, well, see, then where I was coming from at that point in the conversation was when there was a special topic that we really want to get public engagement on, not just have a meeting out in the boondoggle, you know, another district.
Right,
But
make it
an
a draw.
engagement meeting, and those are the kinds of things you need to put in to make an engagement meeting actually work.
Yes.
Mhm.
So for example, you brought up stormwater, and there are specific communities that were particularly impacted by stormwater. So it's not necessarily coming up with a whole new topic. It's this is coming before us, or we're focusing on this, this month. So we know that a particular community has a lot to say that we want to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a perfect example of if the work plan was under that general heading for the year. And we particularly wanted to hear from communities that are impacted, then a special meeting would be called for at a special time and location with some of the supports that enable people to come. That's a good use of a special meeting, it seems to me. And
Sure.
whether it replaces a monthly meeting or not, we can decide.
Yeah. Just on that issue, like particularly on stormwater and, those communities that were impacted, we do have that. It's possible, and I'll let Julia weigh in on this to the extent that she can. It's possible that city staff may not be able to, like from PUD or stormwater in particular, may not be able to participate in that because there's ongoing litigation between that community of concern and the
Mhm.
city. And the city has also filed litigation response. So I'm just flagging it as like, if we do have it, it sounds great, but we may be limited in terms of the extent of the discussion that we could have. Maybe it's more like a listening session or something. I don't know, but um,
Sounds like a
Just-
great conversation for the committee.
yeah, just FYI, there's a lot of nuance there.
Yes. Andrew.
Cindy, I appreciate the desire to get this meeting out into community so that more people can participate. Does the Climate Action Board get more? I mean, because we've been emphasizing routine place every Thursday or third Thursday, whatever, that's helpful. But the Climate Board is doing something different where they are having it in different places, and do they get more? Sure, there might be a variety of reasons, but we would want to be sure that if we had a meeting like this in District 8, that it actually served the purpose of getting more people to come to the meeting.
That's a question I can ask the chair.
Okay.
Do we have Tijuana River as one of our resilience projects? I don't think so. I know it's more anthropogenic than it is climate, but
Is it
there is a climate
in
component. You can make that argument.
the city's jurisdiction?
The Saturn Boulevard site where all the hydrogen sulfide has been released at this point with them.
Yeah, there are portions of the Tijuana River watershed that are within the city's jurisdiction, and then it's also within the county. I think there's some state land and some city of Imperial Beach as well as Mexico.
Yes, and it's not just limited to resilience in terms of climate, because it's resilience impact and implications of infrastructure planning, readiness, climate, environment, environmental justice, energy policy, et cetera, and also biodiversity and conservation.
Yeah, because you can make the argument in an extreme weather event elevates the impact of that problem. Oh, someone said D8, so that I just got thinking about Tijuana River.
That's an excellent point.
Frozen again.
Emergency management and public health connection. to those. Both energy and stormwater, if we go that direction. Other thoughts about the work plan for the coming year?
Well,
Yes.
I have an idea. It would not be an overarching idea, but just something to include, is just this concept of trade-offs as we discuss and propose ideas, like, does doing desalination, how does it impact, like, it helps with our water resiliency, but does it impact species? So I just think just reminding ourselves of trade-offs of these resiliency measures is important as a continuous thread.
Mhm.
I'm
Andrew?
just gonna, thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that point for sure. Several of the things that I know are coming up are Julia mentioned, are on the work plan or are on the city's, docket for the coming year. So the, Mission Bay 10-year plan, I think that was mentioned someplace, more work on wetland restoration. The city has a big wetland restoration planning project in Los Penasquitos, which I don't know very much about, but is on city property and is about wetland restoration. So all of the ones that Julia already mentioned or that are already coming towards us, several of those are very biodiversity focused. And then there's a couple more that relate to those, like Los Penasquitos would be great to learn more about. And the work plan from last year, this year's work plan, includes several resiliency topics that we haven't gotten to this year. So that's a start for what we want to focus on this coming year too.
And do we want to continue on with resiliency topics?
I think they're nice, but maybe we shift them, and especially if we have a longer term. Maybe we don't plan one for every month.
I like
Yeah.
how resilience topics have helped us divide up the work of like contributing to, like, each of us was choosing a speaker each month. And I like that division of labor concept that it kind of introduced for us. But I agree that yeah, I think balanced with the action items and information items, leaving room for discussion, we could decide if it makes sense for those months.
There's a few different ways we could go. We could provide all this information to the ad hoc subcommittee. We could take action on giving direction for the subcommittee to follow these. We can have discussion right now on that, or if we just want to go to formation of the subcommittee. Ad hoc subcommittee. You don't have any strong feelings?
I mean, I don't think any of that necessarily conflicts with itself. So I think we could recommend all of it to the committee and see what their recommendation is.
Do you want to make a formal vote or just give this information to the ad hoc
I
committee?
think just give the information.
Okay. For the ad hoc subcommittee, I can just appoint. Do we have interest from anyone on working on the work plan?
Is the goal to have a draft work plan in January?
Yes. And it can be a different format than what we had before, because we've experienced that, and we can we might do something completely different, or we might modify what we have.
Yeah, giving the posting deadlines, that means it's pretty early in January and it's due. It's a pretty tall order given holiday schedules.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of a ghost. I'd like to.
Okay, so if one person, Jamie, do you have any interest?
Don't have kids.
You guys just froze, so I didn't hear how many, to just one person?
Yes, we have Andrew. Do you have any interest?
And you, Jamie? No, I was
I
kidding.
feel like I've been on I consider an ad hoc committee, honestly.
Okay,
I'd be willing to
Oh.
help, probably wouldn't want to lead it.
okay. Hey, Bill, do you have any interest?
I'm like trying to figure out if it'll fit my schedule.
If you guys have meetings in January, no one knows.
I was gonna say, I'd like to do everything like
Before.
first week of December.
Yeah, I
and-
can't do it.
Well, yeah, that's just my.
I'll put myself on it, but I'm not going, Andrew, you could be chair for that particular.
Stan would want, me, but I don't
Oh.
think we're.
We have Andrew, Eric,
Or if you're
me.
not here,
You get
Alright.
nothing.
you get voluntold.
Okay, chair's discretion, that is our subcommittee. Andrew, you can schedule our first meeting.
All right.
All right.
I mean, I'm happy to look at drafts. I just can't commit to a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're heading to the holiday period, so I can understand the desire to. All right, so that's, have a comment.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think it's completely valid to have a fairly draft for the full board. I mean, everyone's expressed interest in it, and we can't have everyone be on the subcommittee, so. If it's not polished in January, it still gives us direction and can keep us moving
So,
forward.
yeah, it may not be ready to be adopted in January.
Especially if it's an low bond plan.
Low bar.
We're
Low
making
bar.
it calendar year. Julie brought up the point that's.
Oh. I understand.
Yeah, I think I mean, it sounds like you guys are all busy at the holidays, which makes sense. I think it's fine if you've got maybe like a detailed outline for January, and then between January and February, you can have a final to adopt in February, and then also gives a little bit of space for discussion in January once there's a little bit more to respond to. I think that probably makes sense and still will guide the rest of the year for 2026, which is fine.
Say, so we have the skeleton and just enough flesh to get a sense what it's going to look like. And we have to make sure there are no Oxford comments. It's all AP style.
We can take care of that.
I think that's vice chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the subcommittee came up with its best, like, thinking about what the theme would be and some of the. That would be huge, you know, because I feel like there are a number of different ways this could go.
And sorry, just so I'm clear who I'm sending some of the upcoming items to, it's Andrew, Cynthia, and Eric.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ron, you did alphabetically too.
On purpose.
Yes, so I think we can move on to item 10. Okay. Item 10, proposed agenda items for future meetings. We do have one person locked in for February on climate change implications for homelessness. Jolly Moore, who's with the Institute for Mental Health Policy and Research and Center for Addiction and Mental Health. She also coordinates the Global Climate Homeless Network. So that's for February. We have the Mission Bay 10-year improvement plan, which was mentioned already, and the Public Utilities Department informational overview. And Julie, we're trying to figure out which will be January, which will be February.
Correct. I just need to confirm with staff.
Any thoughts on that? This will, of course, be integrated into the work plan, but are there any immediate thoughts for the next few meetings?
I think I would save ample room in your agenda for January to discuss the work plan, because it seems like you'll want that time.
Yeah,
I agree, and I'm just gonna, you know, do we want to say anything about try not to have too many informational, you know, presentations in the same meeting? It's given our desire to talk about it.
good point. All right. Anything else? Any other comment? All right. Item 10A is done, and item 11, which is adjournment to the next meeting. So this meeting is adjourned until we next meet after New Year in
Exactly.
January 15. Happy early Turkey Day, everyone.
Too early, other.
Let's get.
Thanks, everyone.
holiday.
Stop recording.